Hello everyone, welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today I'm going to be doing my weekly 2024 presidential election. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new, and make sure to drop a comment in the comment section down below. And so, guys, as of right now, we can see that my election model currently has Donald Trump winning in grand style. He is currently winning the popular vote by around 5 percentage points. As of the turnout from 2020, we can see that the model has basically factored in the polling averages, the 2016 and 2020 results, as well as the swing and trend from those elections, average change in demographics, which is a model that I've actually been using to play around with demographics. That is my side of the model, which is then calculated over here with the RCP aggregate information with the incumbent president's approval rating. Gold Crown Politics, this is his part of the model, which he used to get the 2020 election 100% correct. And if we see here, he is currently leading. Donald Trump leads by 2.6 against Biden in favorability. Donald Trump sits at around 43.1% approval rating, while Biden's at 40.5%. That leads, to a 2.6, basically a lead for Trump in that department. That swings the popular vote 7.1 points from the right in 2020. And then you have the RCP aggregate, which produces this popular vote result from the 2020 turnout, which I will be editing these to end up matching what I think the current turnout's going to be. And we're going to be going, filling out these safe Republican states, the safe Democratic states. First, we can see that Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Nebraska, pretty much Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri, West Virginia would all be safe Republican. However, we do have new additions to this. However, I'm going to be going over the other safe Democratic states. First, California would be safe in the scenario. It is listed here as a 21.5 percentage point victory for the incumbent president. If we look at the state of Hawaii, he is winning that state by around, we can see right here, he's winning that by 17.8 percentage points as of right now. He is hemorrhaging a lot of support here due to the Maui incident that did occur. However, I don't think it's going to be within 15 points as of right now. The state of Alaska would fall into the safe Republican category, an 18.1 percentage point victory for Donald Trump, which would be a huge shift in the state from 2020. As if you actually look over here, Alaska was a pretty much a 10-point victory for the former president, from the last election. So an 18-point win would be a pretty huge, basically a huge swing from 2020 as of right now. Texas, according to my model, is actually projected to be a 17.1 victory. That would be a huge difference from the previous cycle where he basically won it by 5.6 percentage points. That'd be around a 12-point shift to the right from the last cycle. If we look at the aggregate there, we're actually going to see Donald Trump leads there by quite a significant amount. He leads by 10.5 percentage points. And the last cycle, the polling error was actually around 5 percentage points. That would put the state at a 15.5 percentage point victory. So to say that a 17-point win is not within the realm of possibility is just complete nonsense. A plus 17 Texas victory based on all the data we have, Biden's unpopularity, as well as Donald Trump making gains with Hispanic and African American voters. I definitely think that this is within the realm of possibility. We would be adding the states of Iowa and Ohio into the safe Republican column, as right now they are projected to be, if we can find them here, 18.8 percentage point victory in Iowa, and Ohio, they'd be a 20.3 percentage point victory. If we look at the 2020 results, you're going to see that Iowa was an 8.2 percentage point victory for Donald Trump, and Ohio was around an 8-point victory for Donald Trump. So again, these would be massive shifts in the states of Ohio and in the state of Iowa. These would be humongous shifts and would continue the white working class voter trend within these states. South Carolina would also be a safe Republican state, as it would vote, 24 points for Donald Trump, which would be a massive victory. That would be a lot bigger than the 11.7 percentage point victory that was presented in 2020. If we go to the state of Florida, it's going to be classified as a safe Republican state. We can see that the model has it as a 15.7 percentage point victory, which is around 12 points higher than the 3.4 percentage point victory from the previous cycle. It is voting 10 points to the right of the nation, showing that the state is shifting significantly to the left. The last cycle, it voted 7 points. To the right of the nation, the national environment was 4.5, it voted 3.5, so that's around a 7 point, relative, Republican to the nation. Now it's around, 10 points, which is just absolutely insane. It's 10.4 to be exact. So the state continues to trend to the right from 2020 as of right now. And so that gives Donald Trump 218 safe electoral votes. We haven't even gone over the likely states for him yet. He's already at 218 safe electoral votes. If we look at Maine's second congressional district, he's actually up there by 19 points, as well as going over Maine's first. He is up there by quite a bit. That's actually what's pushing the state, a little bit to the left compared to where it was back in 2020 and even 2016. And we'll cover the at-large margin there in a second. The safe Democratic states in the Northeast would be Massachusetts, Vermont, Maryland, and DC. These states have been reliably Democratic for many years now, and I would suspect them to vote over 15 points for Biden. But the rest of the states will not end up voting for Biden by over 15, which does show a very big weakness in the Democratic base. We can actually start, with Rhode Island, Connecticut. Rhode Island is projected to be, a 13.3 percentage point victory for Biden, which is a little bit down from the last cycle. If we actually find Rhode Island here, we will see it was a 20-point victory for him last time around. So that is definitely a major decrease from the last cycle. We can see in Connecticut, Biden is up there by 14.6 percentage points. If we were to look at the results in Connecticut, we'd actually see that Biden won there by around 20 percentage points or so. So once again, that is a big shift, 6 to 7 point shifts in both of those states. Delaware would also be a huge shift to the left, compared to the previous election. And New Jersey is the biggest one of all. It was a 15.9 percentage point victory for Biden. It is now listed as a 6.5 point victory for Biden. And now Donald Trump actually went to the Bronx today to campaign in the state of New York, as the latest poll from Siena College actually has the state within 10 points. It's a single digit state in polling. However, the model currently has Biden winning by 13.6 percentage points. Trump is going to gain quite a bit in the New York City area. However, I don't think it's going to be enough for him to get the state even under 10 or remotely competitive. Possibly if Donald Trump starts leading the national aggregate by even more than before, we could consider this being a basically competitive state, but for now, it is going to go in the likely Democratic column. We can see that the state of Illinois would actually be an 8 point win for Biden. This is way less than the 17 point win from the 2020 presidential election. However, I do think that Trump is going to make serious gains in the state to the point where Biden is only going to win it by 8 points, especially with African American voters. Colorado, on the other hand, is actually an 8.3 percentage point victory. It trends significantly to the left compared to 2020. Imagine the popular votes are +5 and it's still a D+8 state. That is trending super duper far to the left. That's basically a plus, it's voting to the left of the nation by literally 13 percentage points, which is absolutely insane. In 2020, it only voted like 9 percentage points to the left of the nation. So it does continue to trend to the left by quite a bit. If you look at Washington, you're going to see Biden's ahead there by 11.3 percentage points as of right now. The state was around a 19.2 percentage point victory for Biden last time around, and it's voting to the left of the nation by a pretty decent amount, around, 16 points to the left of the nation. So it is actually slowly trending to the left here. However, I do actually think that Trump is going to make gains here. Polling does actually show this within five. However, I don't think that's going to be the case. However, I do think it can actually be way closer. Oregon is listed as an 8.8 percentage point victory for Biden as of right now. He is struggling with key demographics such as African Americans and Hispanic voters, and even some white working class voters in the basically the West Coast. He's struggling with most of those demographics up there, and a lot of young progressives will more than likely end up voting third party, which can definitely hemorrhage some support in these states from Joe Biden. And so pretty much we haven't even filled in the likely Republican states, and Joe Biden's at 191, Trump's at 219. The first likely state we're going to fill in is the state of North Carolina, which is listed as a 12.3 percentage point victory. If we look at the polling in North Carolina, Donald Trump's up by 6.1 percentage points. The result in 2020 was a 1.3 percentage point polling, basically 1.3%. And in 2020, Biden was ahead by 1.8. That's around a three, point polling miss. And so if you were to apply that polling error, Donald Trump would be winning the state of North Carolina by around 9 to 10 points. So a 12-point win based off of that is not out of the realm of possibility, considering that I'm actually predicting the polling errors will actually be worse than they were even in 2016 and 2020. If we look at the state of Georgia, this is a state that Biden won in 2020 by 0.24 percentage points, and Donald Trump's expected to win it by around 7.5 percentage points. Now, it does vote to the right of the nation, but only by around 2 percentage points, which is closer than it voting to the right of the nation by around 4 percentage points in 2020. So the state does trend to the left this cycle, but this trend is very slowing down, this cycle. So that may be good news for Republicans that they'll still have a chance in the state of Georgia as of right now. In Arizona, Biden is currently down by 7.5 points. It does vote to the right of the nation by around 2 points or so. So the trend to the left is basically slowing down from the previous cycle. And so at this state, Biden won it by 0.31. A lot of people are very concerned about the state, but I think with Donald Trump and Biden's unpopularity, as well as the southern border being a major issue for voters this year, I think Donald Trump's support in Arizona is going to be inflated because of that, and he's going to be winning the state pretty easily as of right now. Nevada is crazy because Biden won it by 2.4%, and right now it's listed as a 10.4 percentage point victory for Donald Trump. That would be a 12-point shift from 2020. And funny enough, the polling actually has it as a 13-point win for Donald Trump. And the polling there tends to underestimate, Democrats by 1 to 3 points. So that would also match this polling area. That would also match this result as well. Donald Trump has like a lot of room to grow here. Basically, there's a lot of Hispanics, white working class voters here, even some African American voters here, and so that's going to definitely push the state, to the right 100%. And now looking at the Rust Belt, Donald Trump does make gains. Wisconsin now votes 5 points to the right of the nation. It is considered a basically a pretty much, if you look at it, it is a 10-point victory for Donald Trump. That would be huge in a state like Wisconsin. He lost it in 2020, barely won it pretty much he barely won it in 2016. And so a lot of people actually think that Wisconsin could be the next Iowa, Ohio, the next Missouri, the next state that becomes basically solid red, which would make sense because the demographics in all of those four states are pretty similar, except Wisconsin does have slightly larger democratic population centers, and so it is sort of rural but not as rural as other states. So it could be a more reliable Republican state in the future, but not necessarily to the point where it's going to be voting safe or like Iowa and Ohio. But it could possibly end up being a pretty high victory for Donald Trump this cycle if the national environment continues to trend that way. In the state of Pennsylvania, Donald Trump's up there by 9.3 percentage points. That is a huge victory in the state of Pennsylvania. Dave McCormick would definitely win by a point or two at that point if Donald Trump was really winning the state by that much. Biden won the state by 1.2%. And so this would be a humongous victory in the state of Pennsylvania. And if we look at Michigan, what's actually interesting is that it actually voted to the right of the nation in 2020, but not as much as what it did in 2016. In 2016, it voted around 2 points to the right of the nation. In 2020, it voted like a point and a half to the right of the nation. And so the state is slowly moving back to Democrats, and it'll still be in the likely Republican column for Donald Trump, according to my forecast, but it will definitely be way closer than Wisconsin or Pennsylvania. You know, there have been suspicions that Michigan's going to be more Republican than Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, but I actually think that Michigan is going to be the closest Rust Belt state out of the three, which isn't even saying much because Donald Trump not only is winning the Rust Belt, you know, by over 5 points and the Sun Belt in the key swing states, he's winning 312 electoral college votes, and we haven't even covered lean and tilt, you know, states for either side. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to go by state basis and cover, you know, each individual state that is left blank as of right now. If we go to Virginia, Biden is actually leading there by a point and a half as of right now. As you can see, you know, he is currently leading there by a point and a half. This is because, you know, as of right now, the state is trending to the left. As you can see here, it is voting, you know, almost 6 points to the left of the nation, even a little bit more than that, actually. It's voting quite a bit to the left of the nation. In 2020, it voted to the left of the nation by around 6 points. So it's not necessarily trending, you know, anywhere. It's a little bit stagnant. You could say it trends slightly to the left, but it is a lean Democratic state in this scenario as of right now. If we look at the state of Maine, you know, the white vote is shifting to the left this cycle, but not as much as non-white voters. And so that actually keeps a state like Maine in the lean Democratic column. You know, even though polling does show Trump ahead, the model does show Biden actually ahead in the state of Maine. And so as of right now, I do have it as a lean margin of victory for the incumbent president. And now we come down to the tilt states for this election, which would be Minnesota, New Hampshire, and New Mexico. Now, what's interesting is that New Mexico is actually a projected flip on the map. Donald Trump is currently projected to win it by 0.2 percentage points, according to my model, which is very fascinating. And you may be like, wait, well, this is insane. You know, he won it by 10.8 percentage points last cycle. Well, the thing is that it's not that crazy because Donald Trump is coming within single digits, sometimes even winning Hispanics nationwide in polling. And if he's coming even close to those numbers, he can very well easily win the state of New Mexico. You know, what's really interesting about it is that New Mexico is voting, you know, just about, you know, 5 points to the left of the nation, actually. It's right about, you know, 5 points to the left of the nation. And in 2020, it actually voted 6 points to the left of the nation. So it does trend a point Republican in this scenario, which would make sense because since the Hispanic shift is going to be so large nationwide, even though white voters are holding the state back as of right now, you are seeing a nationwide shift with Hispanic voters. And so Donald Trump winning the state of New Mexico wouldn't be the craziest thing to actually happen. And since the nationwide popular vote is shifting around, you know, basically 10 points from 2020, and this was a 10-point victory back then, it would actually make sense for the state to flip, considering that there is a lot of Hispanics in the state of New Mexico. And for Nebraska's second congressional district, he's actually winning it by 0.7% according to my model as of right now, which is fairly interesting because the district was a likely district for Biden, and we can clearly see it has trended significantly to the left from where it was even back then. It only voted 2 points to the left of the nation last time. Now it's voting to the left of the nation by around 5 percentage points. So it is definitely a huge difference. You know, trended around 3 points to the left of where it was, you know, in 2020. And so that is the last Donald Trump delegate in the state of Nebraska. If we go to New Hampshire, he's actually winning the state by 0.01%. This is the closest state according to my model. He is barely eking out the state of New Hampshire. It could honestly go either way in the forecast. which is quite interesting. It could really go either way. This is the one state that could genuinely go either way. I mean, Nebraska's second, and New Mexico could really go either way, and even to an extent, Virginia and Maine at large. But this is the one that could really till in either column. Donald Trump is barely picking off the state of New Hampshire as of right now, putting him at 322 electoral college votes as of right now. I'd say maybe the reason why he'd probably be barely picking it off is because the libertarian base in New Hampshire is very large. It is an anti-incumbent state, so it does tend to vote against the incumbent president, relative to the nation by a couple of percentage points. And since Biden is so unpopular nationally, it may actually help Trump barely win the state of New Hampshire, despite actually being a left-trending state. This state would basically be voting like 5.2 percentage points left of the nation as a whole. It'd actually be around, 5.24 points, left of the nation. In 2020, it was voting like up around 3 points to the left of the nation. And so it does trend to the left, but since the popular vote is such a big win for Donald Trump, and the fact that, this is a very anti-incumbent state, you may actually see Donald Trump potentially pick it off. But it is such a close margin that I could honestly give it to either candidate. If I had to do a gut instinct, I would give it to Joe Biden just because the state has trended so far to the left. However, I am going to give it Donald Trump narrowly since that is the margin that is in my forecast. And for the final state, we actually have the state of Minnesota, which is very interesting because the polling does show the state really competitive and that Donald Trump's even ahead in polling. But as of right now, Biden's actually ahead by 0.8 percentage points as of right now, according to my latest forecast. This is Biden's only tilt state. You can see that the state is voting to the left of the nation by around, almost 6 percentage points. And that's even more than what it did in 2020. In 2020, it only voted 3 points to the left of the nation. And so you can clearly see the state trending even more Democrat from before. And this could obviously go either way. Donald Trump could pick it off. All these tilt states could honestly go either way. But as of right now, my forecast does have Biden winning Minnesota. The polling does actually have the state, pretty close. It is a 2.6 percentage point margin. And in 2020, Biden was actually ahead by 9.2 percentage points, and he ended up winning it by 7.1. So that's a 2.1 percentage point polling miss. And so if you were to apply that to the aggregate, Biden would be leading by around half a point. And right now, he is currently leading in the state by 0.8%, according to my forecast. So a lot of the polling errors in some of these states with a lot of polling actually line up with each other very, very well. Even in New Hampshire, the aggregate, if you were to average out the polls, Biden's ahead by around 2.5, and the polling miss from 2020 was around 4 percentage points. And that would put the state of New Hampshire in Donald Trump's column, funny enough. And so that is basically it for this projection, guys. Donald Trump is ahead with 322 electoral college votes to Joe Biden's 216 electoral college votes as of right now. And so if you guys did like the video, please make sure to follow the channel. Make sure to go ahead and like the video, subscribe, make sure to follow the Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below. And I will see you guys very, very soon.